You are listening to the Social Hotelier Show, a podcast that inspires hoteliers to create meaningful and memorable experiences for their customers in pursuit of their passion. We share our views and experiences relating to hospitality, technological trends, and also relating to humanity. Here is your host, Sam-Erik Ruttmann.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Social Hotelier Podcast with me, Sam-Erik Ruttmann. Today's guest, Pablo Torres, brings a wealth of experience from more than 2 decades in the global hospitality industry. Having worked with several hundred hotels in 30 countries, he has guided leadership teams, finding smarter, more creative ways to improve profitability while enhancing the guest journey. As the founder of Torres Hospitality Consulting and driving force behind the Global Revenue Forum in Madrid, Pablo is known for combining data-driven strategy with an empathetic approach to leadership and training. His insights continue to inspire hotel professionals to think differently about revenue, innovation, and long-term sustainability. So welcome, Pablo, and thanks for joining us today.
No, my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Revenue is always the driving force why if you make the revenue, it will hide everything else and your expenses don't have to worry. And so that's why you seem to be focusing on different ways to drive revenue. But you have helped so many 100 hotels to boost revenue beyond rooms. What's the most common mind shift hotel leaders must make to unlock true total revenue potential?
Well, the first one will be believe that they can. And especially now, since post-pandemic, the hospitality has grown a lot, focusing in Europe, which is my main market. So occupancy is increasing year after year. ADR, the average rate of the hotels, is increasing. So as a tourist, you feel it. The prices go up both in F&B and hotels. And for many hoteliers, they believe that it's already stretched and they cannot generate any more revenue. So the point is, make them understand that they can generate more revenue by trying new paths of revenue, which it will lead you to total revenue. So challenge many hoteliers have is that they believe it's historically revenue management. It's only about room revenue management. So dynamic pricing for the rooms, but what about every other space of the hotel? And that's where the extra revenue can come from, those different streams of revenue, which can drive up and achieve that total revenue. So it's about not only putting a price to the room, but it's about understanding the full value of the guest, the entire customer journey, and see if on every touch point, we can create a connection with the customer that will lead to more revenue.
Very good. So when you walk into a hotel for the first time, what untapped ancillary revenue opportunity do you usually see the management maybe completely overlooks?
So it will be F&B. Upselling rooms, it's been in the market for many years. Still, many hoteliers don't do it. The majority still don't do it, actually. Upselling and cross-selling rooms and services. But then when it comes to F&B, restaurants and bars, there is a lot still to be done. Most waiters, most F&B staff, they just take orders. Now, most people, they go, do you have a QR code or do you have a menu? So they go to the table, present the menu or show where the QR code is. A couple of minutes later, they come back and just take a note. Okay, what is it going to be? What do you want to have for drinks? What do you want to have for food? But they don't go into selling mode. So they're just order takers and not sellers. So if you manage to instill that mentality in the entire F&B department of every hotel, the amount of extra revenue that could be generated, it's amazing, but it's overseen thoroughly.
Yeah. So, in practicality, this means to instill that culture of how to service the guest better and how to maybe sense the need of the guest, not just taking the order, but sensing it, and then and maybe asking some questions or maybe some suggestions and so on. And but that's really a culture and a training that needs to be continuously every day, every morning, every night, and so it becomes sort of a second nature to the team, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the challenge, especially in that particular area, F&B. There is a very high turnover. Staff doesn't tend to last much in the job. Usually it's a job for like young people, maybe working part-time while they're studying. So it's not the passion, it's the career. So what you have to try to do is identify the ones that really are passionate about service, and then train them and incentivize them, of course, to make sure that they have that motivation to serve, because they're going to improve the customer experience and at the same time generate more revenue, which ideally should be also shared with them in terms of incentive gratification.
Yeah. What do you feel, about the way things are going now? Well, we talk about reducing paper, and you basically don't have menus. You have just a QR code, or it's made like almost very digital experience. Do you think this approach is good? Does customer actually buy into this? That they don't have more. There used to be the tangible menus in many ways, and now you just have a QR code and use your own digital device, or they maybe have an iPad in front of them. Does that create the right feel and experience, or is it just a old baby boomer like me who thinks that this is how things were so good, how it used to be?
It's a personal opinion. I think for my own one is that it's the way forward.
Okay.
And that's, you cannot really change or fight against the evolution of digital culture getting into the business. Thing is, I hear sometimes, well, older people, they might have difficulties looking at the menu on their mobile phone. Fine, then have an iPad or a bigger screen when they can see it. The thing is that the possibilities that a digital menu gives you are limitless. And the challenge, the first one will be, for example, when it comes to dynamic pricing. You cannot apply dynamic pricing in a nicely printed menu. You're going to spend more money in printing the menu every day than the profit you're going to get. And also the options that you have, for example, in the menu, if you have an iPad, you can have nice videos, descriptions of the dishes, nice pictures of the dishes, which usually you wouldn't have on a paper menu. So it's about adapting it to the market that you have. If you have older customers or people who might still prefer a bigger version of the menu, have a bigger screen, but otherwise QR code is the way forward.
Yeah, the way you explained it makes totally sense to me, and also combining maybe short clips or just some images that are very clearly. What I have seen in maybe the basics are just have it a text on a digital, the menus in digital format, but not more than that. But you're looking at in a more dynamic and more interesting way, and I really buy into that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you have this Global Revenue Forum event, and I quite picked up on one thing, that you have integrated zero food waste into your Global Revenue Forum event. How do you see sustainability evolving from a moral choice to a measurable revenue strategy?
Well, actually, yeah. So now that you mentioned it, the Global Revenue Forum in Madrid this last year was the first certified event in Spain that was zero food waste. So it was a great achievement. So the food that was prepared but not touched was given to a charity, distributed that same night. And then the food was prepared, so the leftovers, they were sent to a hospital in Madrid that they have a gas combined machine, so that it turned that into gas for the kitchen in their hospital. It's a really great achievement. So thing is, in the past, we only thought about, or the last few years, is the sustainability was more about, as you said, the moral point of it is, okay, we should ethically recycle, and that's why you do it at home. And you separate the plastic from glass, from paper. But then when it comes to restaurants and bars and hotels that serve food, it's also, or not only about sustainability for the sake of it, but how much money can I save? And things like up to 50% of all the food is wasted in the preparation stage. So with the moment the food comes into the hotel, for example, and is received by someone, sometimes there is no one there. I've seen many times the food is left by the distributor and bread or the milk at the entrance of the restaurant because the restaurant don't even open. So receiving the food, storing it properly, preparing it properly, and then serving it to the customer. So that process is 50% of the food. We're talking about globally billions of pounds food or kilos that are wasted every single day of the year, and multiply that by the cost of food. Yeah. So you say, okay, how much is my food costing me? The product at a restaurant, is it costing me 5, 8, 10, 12 euro per kilo on average? Okay, if half of that I'm throwing away, how much money am I throwing away?
Yeah.
So it's not only about what people have in their minds, customers, when they go to a buffet, they throw a lot of food, because they feel the plate so much and then they throw it. It's true, but that's the smallest part of the entire food chain, let's say, of the entire food journey. But if the restaurants and kitchens, they focus on how they treat and how they manage the food even before it's served, they will save a lot of money. So it's a big cost reduction activity.
So part of your training or part of your service, do you combine this as part of an exercise with hotels also as an opportunity, not only on the increase of auxiliary revenues, but also that saving part that you mentioned now that you do in the forum? Do you use that as part of your service to hotels also?
As well, yeah. So in collaboration with Open Revenue Consulting, so I'm a certified consultant in terms of food reduction. And now I live in Spain, so there's a new law in Spain that it makes every hotel and restaurant to have a proper food waste reduction track. So there are going to be inspections from this next year coming, and there'll be fines for restaurants and hotels who do not have those activities properly tracked, and eventually they will be penalized for the amount of food they waste. So that'll be the next step of the law. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a big. We are the number 2 in terms of tourism globally in Spain. So there's tons and tons of food are being wasted. So in that sense, that law is very up forward when it comes to trying to reduce the footprint of the waste.
Yeah. Good. Okay, let's move over to that famous AI, which people talk about in many ways and misunderstands and whatnot. But with the AI reshaping data analysis and personalization, what role should human intuition still play in revenue management and upselling?
I mean, AI, it's in every conversation, of course, and it's going to be everywhere in the coming years. I have no doubt of that. But it's true that I was just reading yesterday an article about the big 4 consulting firms that they're using a lot of AI to substitute juniors. And challenge with AI is like, once it gives you a wrong number, the entire process is going to be wrong. And the AI sometimes doesn't have, at the moment, the capability to identify if the number is right or wrong. Sometimes they hallucinate, and then the error is carried on. So they are great at pattern recognition. They are, but they lack context, and they lack empathy, of course, right?
Yeah.
For the moment, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. For the time being, that's the case. So revenue managers, they have to embrace AI and say, okay, what is my day? What does my day look like? My 8 hours. Up until now, maybe I was spending a couple of hours preparing reports, a couple of hours analyzing data, a couple of hours. So most of my day was gone doing or performing actions that the AI can do faster than me and probably as accurate as me. So what I should be doing is, okay, take the strategic decisions. So AI, what it's doing, it's amplifying human judgment, but it's not replacing it. So it makes everyone much more productive, because all these 6 hours that you were spending analyzing reports and preparing reports for your bosses and for the headquarters, it can be done with a click of a button. It can be automated, and then you review, and based on your knowledge and the context that you have from your experience, then you say, okay, this is a strategy that we have to follow, and then click enter again, and the AI, will distribute the prices, whatever needs to be done. But it's a combination of both, and not a fight between one and the other.
So, I mean, from the if you want, let's call it the job description, so it's becoming more strategic, the work, than ever before, because I picked up on your word strategic. So that is actually the very most, I don't know if it's most important, but it's a majority part of the work should be now by the person, and then let let's call it AI do the things that you used to do before.
That's the way I see it. So in the past, revenue managers used to be like Excel nerds. So they're very good with numbers, but they might not be the best when it comes to empathy with them, explaining, selling their ideas and the strategy. So they might go to the head of department meeting or the regional managers meeting, and they wouldn't be able to sell the idea properly. Commercial would, but revenue managers might not, because they were more into numbers, statistics, etc. Now that role needs to evolve into a more of a commercial mindset, as some companies call it, the chief revenue officer, which is directly reporting to the top management, because they are in charge of the net profitability of the business, and not only the room pricing.
Yeah. So you've been deeply involved in upselling strategies for years. What's the biggest mistake hotels make when they try to implement upselling programs, in your opinion?
So, first one will be not incentivizing the team. So if you, because some people say, well, it's part of their job. So, okay, I'm fine. I'm happy for them to learn how to sell, but it's part of the job. Why should I incentivize them? And I'd say, well, listen, you have a sales team. Their full job description is go and sell. And they get a bonus. They get a variable part of the salary, can be 20, 30, up to 50% in some cases, purely on selling more, achieving their targets. So when you get a receptionist, which when they joined, it wasn't in the job description that they were expected to sell in most cases. And now you tell them, on top of what you're doing, now sell, cross-sell, upsell. Why wouldn't you incentivize it? It's the same principle. So sometimes it depends some countries because they're very unionized or regional, local laws or regulations. They might not be able to share a monetary incentive, but they can always be the non-monetary one, like presents, celebrations, extra day off, whatever it is, high-stay vouchers that you can reward the team for the extra effort. So that's number one. And then number two will be not following up. Sometimes people just say, okay, I'm going to train my team, X number of hours, done, trained, sorted. But it doesn't work like that. You need to follow up. You need to be on top of things, both internally and then externally by external company, consultant, trainer, whoever it is that's going to support you, is going to keep guiding you so that the momentum is not lost after training, but it's kept there and eventually increases thanks to that follow-up and management support.
So, after all these thousands of hours of training hotel teams, what have you learned about motivating staff to genuinely embrace commercial thinking without losing their hospitality soul?
Well, they have to understand that everybody wins when you're upselling properly. So the whole point, service industry, and if you're working in this industry because you love it, and at the bottom of your heart, you really believe that it's a guest-centric business. Because I always ask them, I say, well, who's paying your salaries? Oh, the company, the boss, whatever. Okay, and where do they get the money from? Oh, the owners. Okay, and where do the owners get the money from? It all falls back to the customers. If the hotel might be very fancy, but it has no customers, it's going to be empty, right?
Yeah.
So how can you improve the customer experience? Maybe selling them something. It could be a nice dinner. It can be a nicer room. It can be a room with a view. They came to your destination and to knowing that your hotel is facing that highlight, that landmark, but maybe the room they got allocated, it doesn't have that view. Have a conversation with them. And if you see the potential, then show it to them, and get them to see that there's another option. So the customer is going to be happier. They're going to leave the hotel more satisfied. The company will make more money, of course, and hopefully the staff will get an incentive. So if they understand that everything goes around improving the customer experience, I always tell them the best that can happen when you upsell is that guests leave the hotel thanking you for having upsold them.
Yeah,
it was great. We love the view. Dinner was amazing. But it's the same like when you go to a restaurant and the waiter recommends a dish. Oh, today's special is this fish or this meat. And you say, okay, let's go ahead, let's order it. And then you really enjoy that dish, that food. It's like, well, you thank them. Well, thank you for the recommendation. It was really nice. We really enjoyed it. It's the same principle. So I use a lot of examples, a lot of analogies for them to understand that they're also being upsold. We're all being upsold all the time, everywhere we go, be it a restaurant, car dealership, or the corner shop. So, but if you put the customer at the center of everything, then the mind clicks and they embrace it.
Yeah. I just want to circle back a little bit to AI, and the reason is that I read somewhere, and I have noticed that the way we are writing the text for hotel websites, I think sometimes they're using the kind of the text and the wording for describing the hotel about the luxury experience and so on. And when this is now converted into that AI starts to read the text, the AI doesn't understand what you mean with luxury. You have to, in a way, describe that experience much better. So when you do that, then the way AI will convert it into data and it will be used for all purposes will become more were readily available for instance, if you're using AI for that purpose, it must be in a way becoming a more palatable that the information is being used, how the AI is summarizing it. Have you noticed the way how the websites in the hotels are being now converted into the way the text is being written is rewritten now, that AI actually can summarize the experience much better than ever before, but except using the simple word as luxury, because AI doesn't think, they just summarize things in front of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the advantage of using AI for that kind of purpose is that, as you say, it summarizes it. So before, you might give it to an external agency or your marketing team.
Yeah.
And they will work with the SEO optimization. Okay, what are the words? Which are the words that people are searching online? AI puts that all together. And that's a very good point, because now most customers are switching towards experiential luxury.
Yeah.
To enjoy the moment, to spend that weekend, not only about the luxury of the hotel, but the luxury of the entire experience, since the moment they leave to the moment they get back home. So if you are able to condense those terms and pass the message to the future guest that they're going to be really enjoying their time, making the most of the time, and the whole trip is going to be experienced, that it's going to be much more successful when it comes to finding it online. Then again, most search engines now, they use AI. So a lot of people is not going to Google anymore. They're going to Perplexity, ChatGPT, etc., to find information. So yeah, that's a very, very good use for AI. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I'm not using Google so much. I use one of those AI apps for a lot of my searches, and it of course is how you write the prompts and how you ask the question. It will put in front of you then the information that you're looking for. So that's why it kind of triggered my thought on your views on this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, but let's get back to this. The poor GMs who are, many GMs are still firefighting daily operation. How can they balance short-term survival with long-term profitability innovation? Because we still have that kind of dilemma of that maybe it seems to be a long time ago for people that we had a pandemic, but now we are post-pandemic. So what are your thoughts on the GM situation?
Well, they should link it to what we said before about revenue management. It's about strategy. So they need to try to protect time for strategic thinking. So challenge, as you were saying, firefighting. So most GMs, or in many cases, they just go from meeting to meeting, meeting the same people for different topics. So in most hotels, you have the Monday's revenue meeting, there's going to be the F&B meeting, then the strategy meeting, then the events meeting. I say, okay, so the day is gone from meeting to meeting, from web call to web call, and they don't really have time to sit down and think. So the most important thing, I would say, try to delegate whatever you can. Sometimes the presence of people is like, is it really necessary? And I say, you have a meeting with 10 heads of department, and each of them is making $50 an hour. And so, okay, 10 people, 2 hours here, that's $1,000 that we spent already. So was it worth to have 10 people here? Were they all needed? Sometimes I've been sitting in so many meetings, from my hotel experience, like, what am I doing here? It's like, there's no point. And you're not here, so if 2 people need to talk, just get those 2 together and then liberate the other 8. So if the GM can manage to avoid going to some meetings and then delegating some others, this person, he or she, can find the time to sit down, strategize, and think forward, and not only spend the day just firefighting.
Yeah. I mean, from my own experience, there's a history of sitting in a lot of meetings. You have the morning briefing and you actually talk about what happened yesterday rather than talking about the customer experience and about the customer arriving. Are you providing in your strategy sessions with the management about tips on how they can actually make things more strategic in their work, or is that something you're dealing with in your training for hotel operations about setting up their meetings, kind of gently advising a little bit on the path how to make the more meetings more productive, realizing that you maybe spent $1,000 or $2,000 when too many people are sitting around the table and for an hour or 2.
Mm-hmm. I try to pass a message in between, other learnings. But yeah, so in case, for example, purely on upselling, it's about finding the right person who's going to lead it. It doesn't need to be the GM. It doesn't need to be the front office manager. It can be a senior receptionist or a young receptionist who's very motivated.
Yes.
So, okay, because sometimes, like, more and more and more responsibilities fall into the manager's shoulders. Like, okay, it's your responsibility. It doesn't mean that you have to do it. You manage maybe 100 people in some hotels. Okay, who is the person who can take care of that? You're going to supervise that person, but you don't have to do the heavy lifting. So that's the main idea.
Yeah. So if you're looking at comparing guest experience versus margin, in a world obsessed with guest experience, where should hotels draw the line between enhancing service and protecting profitability?
Well, the thing is, like, you can enhance the experience and charge for it. I see a lot of hotels saying, "Oh, we're going to give them a bottle of sparkling wine when they arrive. We're going to give them a nice present, and then next to it, place a QR code for them to leave a review." So if they leave you a nice review, or you give them a free upgrade, is it because they like the service, or is it because you're bribing them with a bottle of sparkling wine or a free upgrade to give you a nice review? So if I give you exceptional service and I charge you for it, you should be equally happy. And there are studies there that show that customers who are paying for a better room appreciate it more than the ones who get it for free. It happens in many hotels, especially in city destinations. The hotels overbook lower categories, and then you have 20, 30, 40 business guests arriving every day who are given a free upgrade. Say, "Mr. Ruttmann, here it is, you got a free upgrade." And you say, "Okay, well, thank you. I'm just staying for a few hours. I'm leaving tomorrow morning. I don't really care about the jacuzzi or the amazing terrace. So I'm not going to use it." But if you manage to identify customers who could really enjoy it, and then you provide that level of service that they're going to make an exceptional experience, and you charge them 50, 100, 200, whatever it is, euros or dollars for that, then of course they will appreciate it. And going back to what I said earlier, they will leave the hotel more satisfied, or the restaurant, because they really make a difference to them.
So let's look at a little bit about the future. If you had to predict the disruptive revenue model the next disruptive revenue model for hotels in the next few years, what would it look like, and who will lead it?
I think the next step has to be dynamic pricing everywhere. So we used to it in other areas. So cruise lines that do it very good. Airlines, of course, the pioneers. In hotels, in 99% of cases, we are stuck with room dynamic pricing. But what about the rest? What about F&B? What about events, spa, parking, everything? Some people are trying it. Some tech tools are already into it, but it's still a niche area. So, and it will come, with the digital menus. Again, going back to restaurants, you will have a steak today that was was priced cheaper this morning, and will be priced more expensive this evening. And you won't know because it's digital menu. So you don't know when it shows $25 in there that somebody tonight is going to pay $29. It's the same with the airline. So when you go into an aircraft, probably no one has paid exactly the same price that the person sitting next to them. Yeah. And we understand that's normal. So the same has happened with hotel rooms. Eventually will happen with F&B operations. It's happening with cruise lines and all those extra ancillary revenues. So cruise lines, for example, in particular, even though they're theoretically meant to be all-inclusive, they now have, for example, some of them, they have a dinner with a show, you pay extra. They have special different entrées for the restaurant, they charge you extra. They charge you if you are no show in the restaurant that you booked that was all-inclusive. So they will charge you a fee for no show, for example. So it's finding different ways to optimize the operations of businesses. So one will be dynamic pricing, the other one will be technology everywhere. So it's just the same that we have it at home. We have technology that's coming with us every day with a mobile phone that is basically an AI computer on our pocket. The same will apply to most hotels.
Very good. So, Pablo, I have two more questions for you before we wrap up. One question that I like to ask all my guests, besides what we all talked about, what other trends do you see happening in hospitality that hoteliers should take note of now?
So I think as it's happening with society, that hospitality is going to be splitting between low cost, no staff, and pure luxury. So the middle class, it's going to tend to disappear. So with technology, they already exist, but there will be more and more hotels with basically no staff that you see. Of course, there will be people cleaning the rooms, although there are already robots in Asia that clean the rooms by themselves. But if you want to have a budget accommodation and you don't mind about not having a human connection, and a lot of young people now, they prefer no human connection. That's why they go to the kiosk in a fast food restaurant instead of going to order face to face. So they'll be there, and there'll be a growing market. So the 1 to 3 star hotels will tend, most of them, to go into the no-staff operations, and the luxury will be more ultra luxury, and there'll be the old-fashioned doorman, concierge, bellboy, receptionist when you're pampered by service, kind of old school tourism. And of course, it will be much more expensive, because what it's becoming more and more expensive is staff at the moment, the cost of human labor. And if you want to keep it within a budget, you have to resort to technology. If you want to give that extra service to customers, they'll be, for the ones who are willing to pay for it and appreciate that kind of service, then they have to pay for it.
That's interesting. I mean, yeah, I can see that what we call the mid-market or the mid-market hotel really is becoming more self-service ever. And I haven't stayed, but I walked into hotels where you basically had there was no one at the reception, but basically so you had a big, I think it was a dinosaurus moving and creating some animation scenes with a big model of some kind of a dinosaurus, and then that was your arrival experience to a hotel, and of course you had a big screen of some videos and so on to set you up for that experience. And then after that, once you had paid, you just give the code of what your reservation, then you get the code, or maybe you already have your room key, and then you just through this scanning, and then you get into your room, and it's obviously prepaid for, or you paid it before. So it's it's a different experience. You don't really look for that, but I think there's still somebody in the back in case there's an emergency and so on. How you to connect and so on.
And then exactly, security could be housekeeping. But then if you go into the city, they use a city trip. You go a couple of days to Paris, to London, big destinations, and you only need the hotel to leave your luggage and sleep and have a shower. That type of product, it's okay. You don't need anything else. You don't need the extra Nespresso machine and the kettle and the ironing board. There's no point. You're not going to need it. So if you can remove all those trimmings, at the end of the day, it's like airlines have done 30 years ago, which is unbundling the product.
Yeah. What
is a hotel room? It's a clean bed and a nice hot shower. Everything else you put on top are extras that for some people are not necessary. So for the ones who don't need it, they don't want to pay for it. It's the same as flying on a low-cost airline with a just small bag. I don't need a 22-kilo allowance. I don't need food. It's just a 2-hour flight. I don't need all of that.
Yeah, so that's right.
It's just let the customers choose what they want and then put on top of that whatever they need.
Yeah, very good. Okay, lastly, if people are interested to find more about what you do, how can they reach out to you? Where can they find you?
Well, on LinkedIn, I post every day. Of course, that's my usual method of communication, and also have my website, torreshospitalityconsulting.com. You have all the information there as well. Also, on YouTube, Instagram, I post regular videos as well with ideas that I come to my mind and share them there, short clips. Yeah.
Okay, so everyone, make sure you follow Pablo on LinkedIn. He's very active there, and I have to admit, I keep learning from him all the time. So, Pablo, I appreciate your joining today's episode, and thanks for all the fantastic insight.
Thank you. Thanks, Sam-Erik, for your time and the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to the Social Hotelier. If you enjoy this episode, please take a moment to leave us a review, give a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay updated. And make sure you follow Pablo Torres on his website. He's very active on social media, particularly LinkedIn. We have an incredible line of guests coming up your way, so stay tuned for more thought-provoking conversations. Until next time, take care and keep exploring. Thanks for joining us this week on the Social Hotelier Show. Make sure to visit our website, The Social Hotelier Show, blueberry.net, where you can subscribe to the show in Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Play, or via RSS, so you never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we appreciate a rating in Apple Podcast. Or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that will help us out too. Be sure to tune in for our next episode.